The reminder, please check out Stelios's course on ancient Greek virtue ethics. We need them. You personally need them. I know I personally need them. We all know that we need them. So please check it out. It's definitely worth your time. I want to talk to you about how Enoch Powell was right about Birmingham, but from the lens of what's been happening with football. We had a bunch of MPs, the Islamo-communists, saying that an Israeli team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, shouldn't be allowed to play in Birmingham against Aston Villa. And they started a petition for that. It was Jeremy Corbyn, Ayub Khan, Iqbal Mahmoud, I think his name was, whatever. And they all joined in saying, no, this absolutely shouldn't happen. Basically, the Jezbollah brigade. And lo and behold, it worked. It was announced that they wouldn't be allowed to participate in. It was announced that the fans wouldn't be allowed to attend, even though the match would go ahead. The decision was made by something called the Safety Advisory Group, and the West Midlands Police says that it had concerns about its ability to deal with protests when the Israeli side play at Villa Park. Who's going to be protesting them in Birmingham?
Brummies.
Yes, natives, I'm sure.
Brummies.
Natives. And so the Safety Advisory Group, which issues safety certificates, these are quite important because if you don't have the right safety certification, your insurance becomes extremely expensive. And that means that the cost of hosting the event becomes quite expensive. And that really affects everybody in the area because as a result of this, now everybody in Birmingham is going to have to pay higher insurance premiums for things like rioting. If you check out my Modad Geopolitics Substack, you'll find that I've been talking about the risk of rioting in Europe for quite some time. But anyway, what obviously then happened was that the Gaza MPs started celebrating that they succeeded and that the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans won't be allowed to watch the match in Aston Villa. And they clothed it in the language of safetyism, that it was really for the safety of the people of Birmingham that this was decided. Now,
the Tel Aviv fans are likely to destroy Birmingham?
As a matter of fact, the Tel Aviv fans are quite nasty, and I'll get to that in a minute.
I know.
But I don't think they were the ones who are going to be destroying Birmingham. And the language here is, one, safetyism, two, the politicization of everything. Sports should be enjoyed by all, regardless of race, ethnicity, da-da-da-da. However, the political dynamics around sports spectacles cannot be ignored, and drastic action must be taken to ensure the safety of fans, players, staff, and local residents. So they touch on the language that is used by the British administrative state and the British left. If you watch my Realpolitik from Monday, I explain how the Muslim Brotherhood always uses the terminology of this culture in order to sort of undermine it and attack it from within. Please go check it out.
And why, as always, this is the ever pertinent question at the forefront of my mind. Why does it have to be our problem? Why did we have to import these Middle Eastern ethnic grievances in the first place?
Good question.
This is a completely unnecessary problem for us to give to ourselves.
Look, another question is, this is a UEFA match, so the European Football Federation. And one of the questions is, why is Israel counted as a European country?
I was just waiting to say that.
It's the same question that Eurovision gets.
Yeah, I was waiting to say that. I feel like Europe ends at the Bosphorus.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Istanbul, it's called the European side and the Asian side. That's what they call it.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, like, Israeli teams shouldn't really be in UEFA, just geographically, right?
But they are. And we saw Zara Sultana, after her tiff with your party, celebrating this and saying that more Israelis should be banned for more things. The Muslim vote, or an organization mobilizing Muslims for the interests of Muslims, blah, blah. And then you see the Islamo-communists commenting, this one is actually funny. I say, let the Tel Aviv fans in. Once the game is finished, lock the doors for 2 years, close the food stalls, cut the electricity, and flatten their homes.
Well, this is going to be like Hillsborough on steroids. This person is asking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll ignore some of these guys, but would want to talk for a second about how cucked the police is. Because the statement from the police was, we have actively engaged with a wide range of local partners and community representatives. Presumably, the white Brits didn't have their community representative present.
No, we never realised we needed community representatives until a few
You thought it was
5
in
years
Parliament. You were naive and stupid, and you thought that your representatives sit in Parliament. And what is being expressed here is that this is a colony in Birmingham that doesn't, in fact, obey British law, where the rules of the British state do not apply, and therefore everything must be negotiated with local community leaders, which is incidentally exactly how Lebanon is policed. Like, that's how Lebanon is policed. You go and you ask the different sectarian leaders, what do you think? And then the army acts or doesn't act.
And everybody knows globally that Lebanon is an ideal situation governmentally that needs to be replicated across the world.
It's pretty much that. While the safety certificate is issued by Birmingham City Council, I wonder who dominates the Birmingham City Council. West Midlands Police supports the decision to prohibit away supporters from attending. Okay.
It makes the Trouble on the Terraces from the 1980s with a bit of fisticuffs.
Yeah,
like, maybe a knuckle duster or a thrown brick once in a blue moon. It makes that look like child's play, doesn't it?
That's just how the working lads got their energy out.
So Keir Starmer says that this is completely the wrong decision. We will not tolerate anti-Semitism on our streets. The role of the police is to ensure all football fans can enjoy the game without fear of violence or intimidation. If only he was in a position of power and was able to do something about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy sounds sensible, The British state should be sovereign and should decide what events are permitted and what not, rather than mobbish community leaders from the third world. He sounds very sensible. Maybe we should give the guy some power and make him, I don't know, prime frickin' minister.
Well, that if it was, say, Englishmen protesting a bunch of Pakistanis in Birmingham playing football or something, then he would mobilise the military.
Yes.
Immediately to get them off the streets.
Yes.
It's very, very brave of him that he won't tolerate anti-Semitism on our streets. It's very, very brave of him.
I'm very impressed. But apparently...
But still endless boats and legal migration of Muslim people. Okay.
Yes.
That all adds up.
Apparently,
that makes perfect
there's
sense.
a big government crisis happening now with talks across the board over how to actually allow the Tel Aviv fans to attend, which sort of brings up the question, are they really nice people, the Tel Aviv fans?
You're telling me they actually did something to warrant a backlash? They weren't just perfectly peaceful.
So some of these guys march with the right, and since 2014, I want to draw your attention to 2 points. One is that in 2014, when there was a war in Gaza that killed, I think, 2,000 people, something like that, the Huffington Post was describing it as a genocide, which it wasn't a genocide. And they're describing this one as a genocide. I think it was an attempt at ethnic cleansing. I don't think it was a genocide. That's a different conversation. But what the supporters of this club were chanting was the schools in Gaza are closed because all the children are dead. Which, even by Middle Eastern standards, where we all wear our hatreds on our sleeves and sort of express them quite openly, that's a bit extreme. That's...
Not very polite.
There's no school in Gaza. There are no more kids left. That's just evil. And these are the fans of the Maccabi Tel Aviv. There's no school tomorrow. There are no children left in Gaza. They chant nicer things like F the Arabs and so on and so forth. Let the IDF finish the job, blah, blah, blah. You expect some extreme nationalism. But celebrating that the kids are dead, that's just vile.
That's just not cricket, chap.
That's just not cricket, is it? And I think it's sort of worth emphasizing that if you are marinated in European Christian culture, and especially in liberal culture, you have no idea what the Middle East is actually like. You don't get it. You don't understand it. Pretending that everybody's just going to get along the minute that they touch British soil is so freaking stupid. It's insanely stupid. And these guys have form. In Amsterdam, apparently, this is an actually pretty unbiased Guardian investigation. If you remember in Amsterdam, I think it was around 7 November 2024.
Yeah, I was going to say this was last year, and I saw a number of. I don't think we reported on it. Maybe we did, but I wasn't involved in it. Saw a number of conflicting reports of what went on. Jewish people and Israelis were alleging that it was just mass outbreak of anti-Semitism for no reason. Other people were reporting that the Jewish fans had been actually trying to goad the opposing fans.
So really, as best as I could tell, what started was before the match. One of the Israeli fans bashed a taxi, and then, according to The Guardian, that taxi, who was obviously Muslim, assembled a bunch of...
Why are there Muslim taxis in Amsterdam?
Good question. Assembled a bunch of his co-religionists to try to attack a casino where the Tel Aviv fans were having a party. And the police managed to break that off. Then the Tel Aviv fans went around tearing down Palestinian flags in Amsterdam. Why are there Palestinian flags in Amsterdam?
Good question.
Yes.
So it just became a series of escalations.
And then it became a series of escalations, and the groups from both sides got beaten by the other, depending on who had the numbers where. And it pretty much rolled through the center of Amsterdam, like a rolling riot as the fans moved in, until the police managed to finally contain it. The Israelis describe it as the pogrom of Amsterdam. That's just dishonest. And the Muslim side say that they did nothing wrong and the Tel Aviv fans had it coming. That's also a bit dishonest. I think if the Tel Aviv fans had behaved a little bit better, they would have still been attacked, to be fair, because they're Israeli. And because that's this sort of tendency. So we just have to be truthful about that. They're horrible, the Tel Aviv fans. They say absolutely atrocious things, even by Middle Eastern standards. But yes, there is a very real risk in a city like Birmingham that this would escalate into violence. And here are some videos of the rioting. I won't bore you with them. But just to explain why the police's hands are tied and why they're panicking, this is the Aston Park region where the Villa Park, where the Aston Villa Park football ground is located. And it's a 70% Muslim area, which obviously has implications. Like the idea that you could seed neighborhoods and let them become 70% foreign is absurd. And if you look
right, that's just... Am I allowed to say particular words regarding ethnic displacement on YouTube, or will we get in trouble? Because as Samson said, no.
Yeah, I think everybody understands what's being said.
I'm saying, yeah.
But if you look at the area around it, it's 80% Asian British, 80 British doing a lot of heavy lifting. The whole surrounding area is pretty much 82%, 80%.
It's a big enclave.
It's a big enclave. And the football field is located somewhere here in the middle. And you can easily see that getting people in and out is going to be quite risky because there is going to be... Say again?
That's a tinderbox.
That's a tinderbox. Yeah. That's a tinderbox. So the safety concerns are legitimate. But I don't think it was about safety. And I think had certain decisions not been made and had this based gentleman been listened to, not this one, obviously, this more...
I was going to say, wait, what? Yeah. Based Lewis Goodall?
Yeah. I mean, before I go to get to the based gentleman, I just want to remind you that a week ago, Robert Jenrick was saying that Birmingham isn't properly integrated, or that at least there were parts of Birmingham that weren't properly integrated. And all of the midwits said that he was absolutely wrong. And you have Lewis Goodall here saying that, no, it's a fantastic people, a success story, blah, blah, blah. What? But the obsession of the online right with it has been as transparent as it gets, by which he's trying to say you're racist. Fine, I don't care. But
so all he's saying is don't notice. Don't notice, and if you do notice, it's a good thing. You're allowed, because these people at the same time were saying, oh, it's such a beautifully multicultural city, which is a euphemism. That's just veiled language, which means it's not English.
Yes.
And you're allowed to say this if you're in favour of it, but if you're not in favour of it, then what are you talking about? You're crazy, conspiracy theorist.
A fantastic city where, okay, you're allowed your opinion. A success story, objectively not true. Objectively not true.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you mentioned Powell at the beginning, yeah, because he was, I think, born and grew up in Birmingham, and certainly his constituency was just outside Birmingham.
Yep.
And so, yeah, he called this like 50
I'll get to
years
him,
ago.
but I want to insult the BBC a little bit first.
Okay, go ahead.
Feel free.
When Genrick said that there's a problem with integration, the BBC said that the 2021 census found 91.3% of Handsworth's population, the area in Birmingham that he was talking about, were black, Asian, and ethnic minorities. I don't understand how that's
not
a success.
English.
Not English, exactly. It's significantly higher than Birmingham as a whole, which is 51% not English. But Handsworth demographic is not unique. Small Heath, Alum Rock, and Sparkhill are among Birmingham neighborhoods where the population is more than 75% Asian and British Asian, which is why this problem happened. For generations, the city has prided itself on its multiculturalism. Do you feel proud?
Has it?
Do you guys feel particularly proud right now?
I can't imagine that all of the people who chose to leave Birmingham because of the way it was changing, who were born and bred there, were particularly proud of it.
I wouldn't say so.
It's like all of the Londoners who moved to Essex
Yeah,
and
pretty
Kent
I think
instead.
I think we must be mad, literally mad,
yes.
to have done such a thing.
Like
to
the
our-
Romans.
Yep.
I see that was the mouth of the river Tiber foaming with blood.
Genrick's comments, where he said that Birmingham had an integration problem, have angered many politicians, rights groups, and locals. Locals is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. The Bishop of Birmingham, Michael Volland, said he felt
Oops, slip of the tongue.
said he felt they had the potential to generate anxiety and stir up division and feed into a harmful narrative that provides fuel for a fire of toxic nationalism.
Okay.
Don't pay
I'm
attention.
so glad we avoided that toxic nationalism. You know, now every time Jews have to move around, they have to be in sort of armored vehicles, but at least there's no toxic nationalism. And again, this isn't a defense of the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv. The point here is simple. If the British state is sovereign, then whoever it gives a visa should be safe anywhere on the territory of Britain. And it should not be the case that different ethnic groups and community leaders can override the decisions of the British state. There is a sovereign. If, as I said on X, if the British government decides that it's going to resurrect Hitler, Mao, and Pol Pot, and Stalin to boot, and parade them in Westminster, the people who prevent this should be British people acting within the system, not the threat of mob violence. The threat of mob violence means that you have been colonized and means that you are no longer sovereign over the entirety of your territory, because you have to negotiate with community leaders every time you want to host somebody. It doesn't matter if this particular guest of yours is good or bad. It's the decision of the British government. It's not the decision of the mob. And what's happened here is that the mob has taken control of Britain's second largest city, and they're bragging about it while sitting in Britain's parliament. That's what's happened.
I mean, for me, I agree with most of what you're saying there. To me, I can't help but get the feeling that part of this is all by design. That the sovereign government because it sees these people as its own client group.
Yes.
It's not necessarily that they've entirely lost control. It's that they're allowing this to happen, to foment confusion, to foment chaos, and also to be able to, as they have done with digital IDs recently, they make sure that the boats are still coming in to generate resistance to the boats, to give themselves consent, to manufacture the consent to say, here's the technocratic solution to this problem.
Yes.
They're not trying to solve the problem. They're trying to let the problem get worse so that people will eventually feel that they are willing to accept any solution that the British state proposes to them.
Absolutely. This was always about divide and conquer, with the government acting as colonial administrators of the British people and treating them as a second-class group that needs to be subjugated and put down through the introduction of foreign elements that are more dependent on it. That's always been obvious. I think. And it's become more obvious with Starmer pushing for digital ID that is going to connect to everything that you do, that will eventually be tied to your social media and then to your right to express yourself. This is very transparent at this stage. So let's listen to this base gentleman, Enoch Powell, and remember, if only more people had listened.
A considerable proportion. In the case of Birmingham, it will be at least 2/5 will be occupied by the immigrants and their descendants by the early years of the next century. Fully separate, for the most part, from the rest of the population because of the numbers. If the numbers were small, then of course, like any very small minority, they would filter into the population. But nobody seriously imagines that if 2/5 of Birmingham consists of a first generation of descendants born here, of people from the West Indies, from Africa, and from Asia, there will not be a profound difference between that part of the population and the rest. You think nobody would notice?
No, I think they'll notice, certainly. The question about is whether they will notice with fear and horror, unless someone announces to them that fear and horror are an appropriate response to such a fact.
I see. And you think that human nature is such that unless somebody referred to this, nobody would notice that their own native cities were transformed, that the white population was moving out and a different population was...
Yeah, it's an excellent series of clips from that interview, and Jonathan Miller, even back then in the early 70s, is presenting all of the same shitlib midwit arguments that you hear to this very day. Oh no, it's not that people notice, it's not that people don't like what's happening, it's that people like you point it out and tell them to be upset by it. Yeah, complete dishonest bullshit.
Yeah, Jonathan Miller's a scumbag. Yep. If you listen to Powell, I did a video again on the state of politics, and they were like half-hour, 40-minute odd one, all about the life and career of Powell, and he was so unbelievably prophetic. He's talking about 2/5.
Yes.
Well, it's actually 70% now, or 90% in some regions.
Yes,
in
he was
some areas.
underestimating.
So he's underestimating it, if anything.
Yes.
And he just calls it perfectly. He just describes the world we live in now, in places like Birmingham anyway, just describes it perfectly. It's unbelievable that his name is just a byword, shorthand for insane, unreasonable, irrational bigotry or xenophobia.
Well,
not at all.
I've noticed
he saw the future almost perfectly.
Yes,
I've
remarkable
noticed
thing.
that because reality is now becoming unavoidable to certain elites, they are starting to not rehabilitate Powell, but at least acknowledge that factually, in terms of the demographics, he was right, even if they don't agree that it's a bad thing. So, is it the Rest is History podcast?
State of politics.
No, not the state of... No, not your... not
mine. Not everything's about me, sorry.
No, not everything.
Somebody
is
called
about
you Pocahontas.
Yeah, I like that.
Not
I
everything's
dig
about
that. I dig that.
the big Pocahontas. No. I think it's the Rest is History podcast.
Oh,
by
with Tom Holland. Yeah, the Rest is History, yeah.
There was a recent episode, I think Dominic Sandbrook, is that his name?
Right,
the historian.
Yeah.
They did an episode examining Enoch Powell and his legacy. And this Dominic guy, I saw a number of clips come out of it, was openly admitting that here's what Powell said about this city and that city. Here are the demographics now. And you can't deny, by the light of those facts, that he was correct.
Yes.
Now, he then went on to try to spin it and say, well, we did get all of these benefits from it, like the magnificent range of food that you could eat now, that kind of thing. Yeah. But they are starting to, at least some fringe elements of the elites, which might then spread out into the broader elite circles, they are starting to acknowledge, no, Powell was bob on with what he was saying, even if we don't agree that it was a bad thing like he said it would be. So that's interesting. I'll be interested to see in the next few years.
Guy was saying that the change in London was a good thing and that it sort of made London even greater. So Tony Blair's communications advisor, was he?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.